The salvage freighter Meridian's Hope had been drifting through the Kovash belt for 3 standard weeks when Ilara Quinn discovered the nest. She'd been performing routine hull inspections when her scanner picked up faint biosignatures emanating from an abandoned Rexian warship, its hull split open like rotted fruit. Ilara had seen plenty of derelicts in her 5 years as a solo salvager, but something about this one made her pause. The Rexians were apex predators, 7 feet of scaled muscle, razor-sharp claws, and teeth designed to tear through reinforced armor. They didn't abandon their ships. They died with them. The airlock hissed open, revealing darkness punctuated by emergency lighting that flickered like dying stars. Ilara's boots magnetized to the deck as she moved through corridors painted with old blood and scoring marks from energy weapons. Whatever had happened here, it had been violent and final. The biosignatures grew stronger as she descended into what appeared to be crew quarters. That's when she heard a sound that shouldn't exist on a dead ship. A whimper. Ilara rounded the corner and froze. In the corner of a small cabin, huddled beneath a thermal blanket that had long since lost its charge, were 4 Rexian cubs. They couldn't have been more than a few months old, their scales still soft and mottled with juvenile patterns. Their eyes, massive and reflective in her flashlight beam, tracked her every movement with a mixture of fear and desperate hope. One of them, slightly larger than the others and bearing a distinctive white stripe across his snout, crawled forward on unsteady legs. His claws, barely the size of Ilara's fingernails, clicked against the metal floor. "Are you our mother?" The cub asked in broken standard, his translator collar flickering weakly. Ilara's breath caught in her throat. The question was absurd, impossible. She was human, soft-skinned, blunt-toothed, barely 5.5 feet tall. The adult Rexian female who had birthed these cubs could have torn Ilara apart without breaking a sweat. They were predators. She was prey. But as she looked into those enormous eyes that held the same universal language of abandonment and hunger that transcended species, Ilara felt something shift in her chest. She smiled, slow and warm. Close enough, that had been 6 months ago. Now Ilara watched as Shranshid named him after the white stripe that marked him as different stalked through the cargo hold of her refitted freighter. He'd grown significantly, his scales hardening into their adult patterns, his movements gaining the lethal grace his species was known for. His 3 siblings followed behind him in a loose formation, their hunting instincts already sharp despite their youth. Again, Ilara called out from her perch on a stack of cargo containers. "Your rear guard is too tight. Kessa, you need to give Vorn more space to maneuver." The smallest cub, Kessa, chittered in frustration but adjusted her position. They were practicing pack tactics, something that should have been taught by their biological parents in the Kiln, fields of Rexos Prime. Instead, they were learning from a human who'd spent 2 months absorbing every piece of Rexian educational material she could find on the galactic net. The irony wasn't lost on Ilara. Humans had only joined the Galactic Council 15 years ago, and their reputation was complicated. Too fragile for military service, too emotional for diplomatic missions, too unpredictable for scientific expeditions. The galaxy had neatly categorized humanity as support species useful for labor and logistics, but not much else. The Rexians, on the other hand, were legends. Warrior poets who'd conquered a dozen star systems before choosing to join the council. They were respected, feared, and never questioned. And here she was, teaching their children how to hunt. "Shran, you're telegraphing your final approach," Ilara said as the young Rexian prepared to pounce on a training dummy. "Your shoulders dip right before you jump. A smart opponent will see it coming." Shran paused, his tail lashing in irritation. "How would you know? You're not a predator." It was the first time he'd said it out loud, though Ilara knew he'd been thinking it for weeks. As the cubs grew stronger and more aware of their nature, the biological reality of their relationship became harder to ignore. She was teaching them to be apex predators while belonging to a species that would have been prey on their homeworld. Ilara hopped down from the containers, landing lightly on the deck. She walked up to Shran, barely reaching his shoulder now, and looked up at him steadily. "You're right," she said quietly. "I'm not a predator." "Not like you." Shran's head tilted, confusion flickering across his reptilian features. "But I'm human," Ilara continued, "and humans survived. We weren't the strongest or the fastest. We didn't have claws or natural armor. We were prey for most of our evolution." She reached out, gently tapping Shran's chest. But we learn to think, to adapt, to turn our weaknesses into weapons. We learn to hunt the hunters. She stepped back, her smile returning. So when I tell you that you're telegraphing your attacks, I'm speaking from the perspective of prey that learned to fight back. And that Shran is the most dangerous kind of opponent you'll ever face. The cargo hold fell silent. All 4 cubs watched her with a new intensity, their predatory instincts recognizing something they'd missed before. Alara wasn't prey. She was something else entirely, something that had clawed its way up the food chain through sheer stubborn persistence. Shran's mouth opened in what Alara had learned was a Vrexian smile, all teeth and respect. "Teach us," he said. Over the next weeks, their training intensified. Alara showed them how to read body language across species barriers, how to anticipate attacks from opponents who didn't follow Vrexian combat doctrine, how to turn environmental factors into advantages. She taught them the human concepts of asymmetric warfare and creative problem-solving. But more importantly, she taught them pack loyalty that transcended biology. She taught them that family wasn't always about blood or species. Sometimes it was about who stayed when everyone else left, who fed you when you were hungry, who taught you to be strong when the galaxy expected you to be weak. The day finally came when Alara received a transmission from the Vrexian High Command. They'd been searching for the cubs, the children of a decorated war hero who'd gone down fighting an enemy ambush. The Vrexians wanted their lost young returned. Alara gathered the cubs in the common room. They were almost fully grown now, capable and deadly. Shran stood protectively in front of his siblings, reading the tension in Alara's posture. "They want us back," he said. It wasn't a question. "Yes," Alara confirmed. "What do you want?" Kessa asked quietly. Alara looked at each of them, Shran with his distinctive stripe, Kessa with her clever eyes, Vorn with his massive shoulders, and little Trix, who always managed to find trouble. She'd watched them grow from helpless cubs into magnificent predators. She'd bandaged their wounds, celebrated their victories, and yes, loved them in that fierce, protective way that transcended logic. "I want you to be happy," Alara said finally. "I want you to choose." Shran stepped forward, close enough that Alara had to crane her neck to meet his eyes. He was massive now, easily capable of the same feats of strength and violence that made his species legendary. "You asked me once what predators hunt," Shran said, his voice deeper now, resonant with maturity. "I've been thinking about that, and," Alara prompted. "The best predators don't hunt at all," Shran said. "They protect. They provide. They teach." He lowered his head until it was level with hers. "They love, even when biology says they shouldn't." Tears pricked at Alara's eyes. "Shran ... We'll meet with the High Command," he continued. "We'll honor our biological heritage. But we're not leaving you. Your pack." He glanced back at his siblings, who chittered their agreement. "More than that. You're our mother, close enough, remember?" Alara laughed, the sound breaking on a sob. She reached out, and 4 massive Vrexian predators pressed close to their tiny human parent, their scales cool against her skin. The galaxy had rules about species and hierarchies, about predators and prey. But Alara Quinn had never been good at following rules. She was human after all. And humans specialized in rewriting the rules entirely.